Punch Club is a rags to riches story about a dude who wants to become the very best, and does it by grinding bubbles, tripping over pop culture, and punching bears. Overall, the story is pretty bare bones and doesn't always make a lot of sense, but rather than look at how the story does its thing, like usual, I'm going to talk about how the story could have been a lot better without a lot of effort. The game opens with a quick dose of backstory. Your father taught you to punch, but then someone punched him with bullets, so now you have to punch him back. It's simple, it's quick, and it shoves you into the mindset of being on a quest for revenge. Yeah! And then you watch bubbles pop for 10 hours, and stand by as the dude gets pounded on with minimal player input. It promises a revenge-driven fighting game, and then it delivers a management sim. It's fundamentally missing what the player signed up for and what it sold itself as. But there's a simple way to fix this. Don't make Punch Guy the main character. All the player is doing in this game is telling Punch Guy what to train with, how to spend his time, and what moves to use in a fight. Like, say, a trainer might. Let's introduce Mick. Mick is your trainer. He shows up at the very start of the game, declares himself to be your trainer, then proceeds to do nothing to train you for the rest of the game. Now, if the player was represented by Mick rather than Punch Guy, suddenly all the mechanics of the game make sense in context. You don't actively train, you just tell Punch Guy what to do, much like Mick might. You don't control the fights, you just advise Punch Guy what to do between rounds, like what moves to use, much like Mick might. You wouldn't even need to change the story that much either, partially because Mick's already connected to the main plot, but also because the plot's so threadbare that there really isn't that much to change. Once the mechanics and the fantasy line up, the players are going to be much more immersed and invested. Instead of going in thinking, "But I was going to punch things," they'll say, "You're ready, kid! You're ready!" As I covered, the game's opening doesn't actually reflect what you'll be spending the game doing. But on top of that, the game lacks focus. Besides the stat grinding that defines most of the game, much of the stuff you do actually has nothing to do with anything. The actual quest that Punch Guy is on is to become the best puncher and then punch a guy. And while a lot of what you're doing is related to punching, very little of it has anything to do with the actual main guy you want to punch. You punch a crocodile, a crook, a bear, and Tyler Durden, but none of them have anything to do with the actual plot. You have no reason to punch these guys except to get better at punching. And yeah, sometimes that's enough. But the story in this game is so flimsy that you can't afford to distract from it with crocodiles and bears. The opening was pretty strong. Like cliche, simple, yes, but strong. It lays out your motivations, it dives in, but then the game just forgets what it's doing and hopes that you forget too. There's nothing wrong with telling a simple story. The problems arise when you drown that story in random crap, even if it is sometimes funny. Most of the stuff you do that isn't pop culture references is just about getting stronger. Become champion of the Chumps League to get stronger. Train in Siberia to get stronger. Make movies to get stronger, apparently. The problem, paradoxically, is that the point of the game isn't to get stronger. The point is to punch that red-eye guy. Getting stronger is the means, not the end of the objective. And the game focuses on the means so much that the actual point of the game is completely forgotten. The only things you do that are directly related to punching red-eye is punching Zangief and then punching your bro. The simple way to fix this is make some of the things that happen to you actually be relevant to the plot. Add a couple more steps in finding out how to punch Red Eye. Make more of the people you punch related to him in some way. Make that crocodile his henchman. Change some of the more meaningless interactions to something that reminds us of what we're actually after. Have more than 2 active steps in the story. Give us something, anything. So, I'm going to spoil the ending here, but honestly there's not that much to spoil. All game you've been building up and training for a fight with the red-eyed man. You punch your way to the very top, make it to his evil island, and then punch your brother. You get a big twist that makes very little sense. And then the game just ends. It sets itself up for a sequel that, in all honesty, has not been earned. For the vast majority of the game, the only reason I was still playing it was to see how the story resolved. And the main reason for that was so I could make this video. But there was no ending. It just says, see you in a sequel! And I thought, no, you won't. Basically, the only reason I was continuing to grind those damn bubbles and punch those damn ninjas was so I could see what the conclusion was. And the game didn't even give me one! It's a shitty move! It provides zero closure on something that really doesn't need to be dragged out. And the game's already been dragged out way too much. Just finish the story. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't even have to be good. But just provide a conclusion. Answer the questions you raised. If you close out the story and give people some sense of resolution, maybe then they'll buy the sequel. But as it is, it just feels lazy, like they couldn't be bothered to write an ending. So that's a few simple ways that Punch Club's story could have been improved. The story has the bones of something decent. Something that's been done before, sure. But just because it's not original, doesn't mean you have to half-ass it.